Drop it.
Welcome Splunk Senior Vice President and General Manager, Kamal Hathi.
All right. Well, good morning. No parachute this time, it turns out. Thank God for that. Still have my t-shirt. By the way, this t-shirt, I came up with it, wasn't dumped in a wheelbarrow, and still made it out. I'm also reminded by the Splunk legal team to tell you that this t-shirt may or may not be released to you in public. All right. With that said, let's jump in. It's day 2, and are you ready for day 2? Yes, all right. So a few things about day 2 to remind you. 1, we will continue to unpack all the amazing things Jeetu talked about, working with machine data, AI, and how machine data influences that. But we also are going to talk a lot about what Splunk always has done, working with data, enabling with data management, observability, security. There'll be many interesting announcements about that. We're going to have some multiple deep dives there, so get really ready for that. And then we'll also continue to talk about how this, in some senses, is a new Splunk. And this Splunk is ready to help you make the transition into the AI era. All right, with that said, let's go, let's get started, and jump in. Okay, so yesterday we talked a lot about all the complexities, in some senses, the issues that are coming in with AI, and making our jobs, your jobs, everyone's jobs, a little bit harder. At the same time, though, AI also is giving us tools, it's giving us abilities. It's a revolution that helps us do much more. And our job here at Splunk is to make sure that you are able to lead this AI revolution. So that's what we're here. We are here to make sure that you are able to be at the forefront. Now, in some senses, we have only scratched the surface of what is possible, and we talked about that yesterday. And Jeetu really did, I thought, an amazing job to really get in and start talking about all the potential there is in terms of using machine data, teaching AI to learn machine data, being sort of bilingual, human language, machine data language, and really being able to solve problems, issues that are not unforeseen, are unable for us to see directly and understand. And that was, I think, really interesting. And today I'll go a little bit more into the details there, and we have the deep dives that will unpack that further. With that said, it's really important to us to recognize and acknowledge that digital resilience will have to evolve. It has to evolve. Our jobs have to evolve. And this requires a whole new level of digital resilience. And the approach we've talked about is this notion of delivering both resilience, observability, security for AI, creating that trust, because if you can't trust it, you can't use it. And with AI, this notion of giving you the tools, the power, really the ability to move at machine speed and machine scale. Now, everything is changing, literally, in this world, everything. And as are we, as is Splunk. And our commitment is really to make sure that you are able to move ahead and be at the forefront of this AI revolution. That's our passion, that's our commitment. And I'll tell you this, I go to the office every day, and I feel this energy, I feel this buzz, I really feel this, it's almost a renewal that's taking place. And the old-timers at Splunk, the Splunkers, who've been around for a long time, the proverbial the graybeards, nothing wrong with that. They tell me that this is how it used to be. This is how it used to be in the early days of Splunk. There was that shift to the cloud, a movement to be digital, and that created this excitement, this buzz, this energy that was coming out of Splunk. And once again, with AI, the change in AI, we're feeling this energy again. We're feeling this drive again to make sure that we are here for you, to help you transform and help you succeed with AI. Now, with that said, it's really important to acknowledge one thing. All this stuff, this AI transformation and all these things we're talking about, it doesn't happen without you. I mean, you all are the masters of machine data. You know, you've been doing this for a long time. You know how to unlock machine data, how to make it work, and especially now with AI, all the discussions we had, you've been talking about creating new models, etc. That's what you are really great at. Now, I'd also admit, kind of sheepishly actually, that I am a superhero fan. I really am. Maybe you are as well. Yeah, thank you. And it turns out that I sometimes sleep in my superhero pajamas. And I have this red cape that covers me and keeps me safe. But I'm a romantic. And the reason I'm romantic is I believe that every time there's a shift in the world, there's a change, a superhero steps in. And that's what you did. That's what you did when we moved to the cloud. That shift to the cloud, it would not have happened without Splunk, without what this whole amazing community was able to do in making the world really stay on top of resilience for the cloud era. And that's exactly what you will do in the AI era. You are the ones who are going to make it possible for us to have a practical, truly practical use of AI in the enterprise. Not consumer stuff, but practical, scalable, reliable, resilient AI. That's what you'll deliver, and that's why the AI era does not happen without you. Okay? Now, AI is spreading. It's like wildfire. And in this wildfire, you need to fight fire with fire. And that's what we're doing. We're delivering you the tools that enable you to be responsive, be able to work at machine scale, at machine speed, to respond to the new kinds of capabilities that are popping up, and do so in a way that works for you. The way we think about it, and we have said this before, is in two ways. One is this notion of resilience with AI. And this is really important. This is the notion of enabling you to have the tools, the autonomous tools, the assistive tools that allow you to work in security, observability, make the SOC more agentic. And you'll hear Mike Horn very soon talk a lot more about this and really empower you to move at this machine speed in security. The same thing applies to observability, to deliver the tools to make observability more agentic, more autonomous, able to respond to issues that happen in a quick and fast fashion. And Patrick Lynn, PCL as we call him, will talk about that a bit more in the rest of the keynote. The second thing, of course, again, is this notion of resilience, with AI. The idea that you need to be able to trust it all the way from silicon to the agent, to the application, as G2 had pointed out. And this is really important because, again, you are going to deal with so many different changes, agents coming from all over the place, AI, LLMs, vector databases, GPUs, and God knows what else. And you need the trust, the observability and security to be able to keep really a track of what's going on. So we are delivering that as well. Now, at the base of all of this, again, is data. I mean, data is everything. Data is the fuel. And you need a way to refine that data into fuel that you can use. And here, it's really important to point this out again. It's not just about new AI or new AI tools. This is what Splunk has always done. We've always done this. Except now, they're going to a different scale that you're working with. When I had started off my career, which is a long time, I talk about gray beards, don't have a beard, but certainly gray hair, a gigabyte was a big thing. We dealt with gigabytes, I was like, wow, we got a gigabyte now, And then you got to what big data. Now, big data was a big thing, right? And I think all of you, I would say, are big data practitioners. Splunk has always been a big data company and big data analytics. With AI, I think we're seeing this transition that is no longer just big data. We're talking at data at ludicrous scales, right? It's just inconceivably large data. But again, this is what we do. This is what Splunk is really great at, which is providing you the tools, the capabilities to deal with data, the complexity, the scale, no matter what it is. And so we've always done this. We'll continue to provide you the capabilities, the tooling that allows you to distill this data down, boost that signal from the noise, make sense out of it, manage the data, and then go ahead and correlate it and work with it, bring it together to make sense out of it, again, in this new massive scale that you're working with. So once we do all of this, it's again back to the same notion of unleashing AI to get sense out of this massive amounts of data. And we talked yesterday about this a little bit. We talked about all these different possibilities that exist, what we can do with machine data. But it's really, really important, it's my point of view, to understand this, which is that one size of data does not fit all. Right? I get customers, all of you telling me all the time, this notion of out-of-the-box magic AI, like it doesn't work. Like you need AI that works for you. You have so many different requirements, so many different needs. Your data is differentiated. And every time I talk to customers, every time I talk to you, this comes back again and again, which is there's scenarios in security, in observability, there's scenarios in manufacturing, networking, et cetera, et cetera. And there's one that particularly stands out to me, like personally. I spend a lot of time online shopping. As, those pajamas and capes don't show up on their own. You've got to work hard and find them. And so that's what I spend a lot of time is online. And the one thing that customers have told me in terms of retail scenarios, is this notion of a self-healing checkout. This comes up over and over again, right? Every time there's a big announcement, and there may be one today, like all kinds of people are making big announcements, right? The systems seem to go down. We seem to hit some problems, something happens, and you have to ask yourself, why does this keep happening over and over again? It's a game of whack-a-mole. This breaks, you fix that. That breaks, you fix this. And every time you're sitting, if you're an SRE, the question is it a repeat incident? Well, it's not, but it's something slightly different and slightly different. And that's where this notion comes in, of being able to understand how you can take many, many, many different signals, well beyond anything you thought about, combine it, and come up with an ability to start seeing the unseen, being able to have this agentic solution, if you will, that's able to keep these checkout processes available. So that's what I hear. Customers want agentic solutions for self-healing checkout that are able to prevent any incidents from happening before they happen, and when they happen, rapidly fix them so that they don't happen again. And that's exactly what we've been talking about when we say, hey, this butterfly effect or small changes have a big impact. And something as mundane as a checkout process would benefit immensely by having this new class of AI, where the AI understands machine data and is able to stay ahead of these kinds of problems. So that's what we talked about, and that's exactly what we mean by these three things that enable this. The first is this issue of working with data at this literally ludicrous scales. And the reason this data is so large is because the signals are so varied. You can't just focus, in this example, just on the cart data. You worry about data from the network, from compute, from various databases. Maybe even we talked yesterday about ambient temperature. All these things have to come together. This is well beyond what any ways we can keep in our head or even think about, and really start to create these AI models based on this data, your proprietary data, to create interesting predictions of what might happen, have the agents be able to operate on that, and then, of course, finally, have this interface, this capability to work, talk to the agents, and have the ability to direct them and make sure that indeed you have this resilient process. And these three things are exactly what we have been driving with this notion of the Cisco data fabric. And to make it simple and sort of unpack a little bit, what the Cisco Data Fabric is an evolution of the core Splunk data platform. It's a Splunk data platform, but now working at these literally infinite scales, if you will, but with very finite economics. It's the ability to take that data, schematize it, correlate it, and persist it in a what we call the machine data lake to have it ready for AI training and have these agentic solutions that are able to operate upon it. And that's what you saw yesterday, and we'll unpack some of this a little bit more going forward. All right. So I talked a lot in the abstract about what is possible, what we want to do, how at Splunk we want to really enable you sort of this new era and be the ones that allow you to succeed. What I want to do next is shift gears a little bit and go from the abstract to something very real. And to do that, I'm going to invite my friend Tom Gillis to join me on stage. Come on, Tom. All right. Welcome, Tom. Thank you so much for being here.
Well, thanks for having me.
Absolutely.
Did you know this is home? So I grew up in Boston, 30 years,
Oh.
Boston boy. Yep, yeah, exactly. Now, when I tell people that, they're always a little disappointed because like, where's the Boston accent? And all I'll just say is, put a few PBRs in me, and I'll tell you where I park my car. Okay? But for the time being, we'll keep it in the Queen's English.
Fantastic. Hey,
Okay.
Tom, we talked. Well, yeah. I didn't know what he said. He said something, but that's okay. I think my accent's much better. Like,
Yeah, it's not the Queen's English, but I'm going to go with it, right?
Okay, that's fine. Hey, Tom, we talked about this data fabric.
Yes.
You and I have been talking a lot about this, and I really like the way you think about it. Can you just sort of share with the audience your thoughts?
Yeah, well, first of all, I would say this is one of the more interesting. I'm an engineering, techie, kind of nerdy guy, superheroes too,
Hey.
although I don't wear the pajamas, but because that'd be weird. And so
He doesn't admit it. You never know.
I think it's one of the more interesting projects I've worked on, because the idea here is everyone knows that this AI revolution, this is not just hype, right? It is making fundamental changes. And when we think about like my lifetime dream of having a robot bartender at home that's AI powered, that's going to generate a lot of data, ludicrous amounts of data. And so if you're trying to ingest ludicrous amounts of data into a monolithic single data repository, you may be able to make that data repository 20% more efficient, 30% more efficient. We're talking about 1,000, 3 orders of magnitude more data, right? It's just not going to scale. Like, come on, what's going to happen if you take ludicrous data and put it into a single data repository? Pop quiz for you.
We
What's
just
going
did
to
that.
happen? Exactly.
Yeah.
And what you get is a ludicrous ingestion bill, okay? And nobody wants that. So the idea behind the Splunk data fabric is let's take that data lake and let's break it up into data ponds and then data puddles. So this is a multi-year journey we're working on, but having the ability to decentralize the stores, but have them be able to communicate and share information is really, really powerful. So it's not just a better version of that which exists today. It's a new architecture that I think is going to be relevant in this world where AI devices are generating tons and tons of traffic. And so there's a kind of top-down aspect to it where we create these decentralized data stores, and there's a bottom-up in that we're putting intelligence into the capillaries of the network, into the fabric of the network itself, that allow us to send telemetry into these data repositories in a much more compact and much more organized fashion. You put those two things together, we're ready for ludicrous amounts of data.
Got it.
Yeah.
And I think, Tom, you talk about this notion of security infused into the fabric of the network.
Yes.
And I love that. Can you just here's a clicker and talk us up to that a little bit?
Yeah, sure thing. So for decades, the way we used to think about network security is it came in a box. Right? Now, a box is a firewall or an IPS or an appliance device, and you stick that box at the edge of the network, and it would do its magic thing. Those boxes are expensive, hard to administer, and if you think about it from a security standpoint, they only see a little tiny slice of the traffic. It's really not that effective, right? So imagine we could take that box, define it in software, and break it literally into 1 million pieces. 1 million little tiny baby network security, I don't want to call it firewall, network security widgets that you can put everywhere. Right? So every application gets its own little perimeter. It's the services within that application. Every web server, every app server, every Kubernetes cluster, every database gets its own little perimeter. But applications don't just live in the data center. In this AI world, they're going to live in the world around us, right? You know, the robot bartender, the robot welder, the hospital blood analyzer, these are very sophisticated applications that need controls, and the network is the perfect place to observe and initiate those controls. And so with this distributed system, we have extremely precise, fine-grained resolution. And we can see a lot of this is built around software technology from Isovalent, which is a Cisco company, that allows us to look into the kernel of the operating system, but not actually be in the kernel. And it allows us to see everything that's happening in the guts of the machine at the process level. So we can see when one process is initiating a connection, and we can see when that process is terminating a connection, which is a really big deal, because in today's world, where an attacker has stolen a credential, you got to look much deeper. It's not enough to know who a user is and if they've got a legitimate password. In fact, I mean, from your perspective, stolen credentials.
I mean, that's it. Why would you try to hack anything if you can steal it?
Right. It's pretty much standard procedure for attackers to use a stolen credential and move through legitimate pathways. So having the ability to be able to look at the process level and say, yeah, I know it's Tom, and I know he's on a Cisco managed machine. What process on Tom's machine is initiating this connection? And then, oh, look at that, it's terminating in a SQL database, but it's not terminating in a SQL daemon. Red alert, right? So when you have that process level data, we can see amazing things. The problem is, if you look at the volume of process level, you're correlating every process to every flow on east-west traffic in an application, that is 3 orders of magnitude, 1,000 times more data that you're ingesting.
But how do you handle it? I mean, that seems like it's crazy, right? I mean, talk about ludicrous. This is beyond ludicrous.
Correct, correct. So the way we gather this data is kind of with 2 parameters. One is we have that isovalent software that runs in the host. And like I said, that is magical and transformative. But as good as it is, there are also applications you simply can't put any agent. And so we've introduced a class of device that we call a smart switch. And a smart switch is a single device that has 2 personalities. So on the one side, it has a networking personality. A networking personality is super high performance, ultra stable, ultra reliable, and you don't update it that often, right? You kind of want to set that thing and forget it. The other personality is the security personality. What's that like? It's like your superhero. It's fast, it's moving, it's updating, it's constantly changing, it's looking deep into the packets. Those 2 different life cycles live in this single box. Mm-hmm. And so all of a sudden, the network becomes a really interesting enforcement point. And that we can see things like the robot bartender or the robot welder or the blood analyzer. We can see the behavior of these devices and understand and interpret them in a really powerful way. And so while we're moving the packets from point A to point B, we can be identifying, hey, this one needs further analysis. And that's happening not in the giant data lake, that's happening out in the capillaries of the network. And so having this decentralized ability to gather and harvest information in an intelligent fashion and then bring it up into one of these data repositories that is part of the Cisco data fabric, that's the magic here, right? And that's pretty amazing, yeah. So this architecture, in the fullness of time, I just want to be sure, we're talking about kind of a multi-year journey here, but this architecture will ultimately take over and replace what you think of as a traditional network security device. In fact, I'd like to say 2 years from now, when we come back to Boston and we go out for those PBRs, I'll say, remember when a firewall used to come in a box? Remember that? And you had to like update that thing during a change control window, and it was like Christmas Eve or sort of the 4th of July, and you had to
talk about taking things down. I mean, that's like, yeah.
Yeah, exactly, right? And so this will just be woven into the fabric of the network. And so the network security element is going to be much, much, much faster. Now, talk about what that means in terms of Splunk and the commercials that you guys have been thinking about.
Yeah, so yesterday we heard G2 talk about the firewall and the firewall offer. And I think this is an incredible deal, right? Yes. Here we are. Tom tells me all the time, and it makes so much sense, is a very large portion of all data that goes into SIEMs, into security operations, is from a firewall.
I talk to customers, it's like 1/3 to half.
That's amazing.
Of the total ingest. And ironically, that's only looking at a little sliver of the traffic, right? And so with this program, that firewall ingest is now free, right? We don't charge for it, right? What do we think about that, folks? Woo-hoo. Free firewall?
Yeah.
Okay, so free t-shirts, we like that. Free firewall ingest, we like that. Kamal, pop quiz for you. What's even better than free firewall ingest? Do you know? How about not ingesting at all?
Ooh.
Right? And that's the idea here, is that with the Cisco Data Fabric, we'll be able to apply analytics on data that is stored in place in a local log repository, and you don't actually ingest it into Splunk at all. And here's the best part of this whole entire narrative. It's real. You can see it, and we're actually going to run a demo.
And before we get to the demo, also the point is, well beyond firewall, this is going to be possible for all of Cisco's estate.
Correct.
That's what you're working on. Well, with that said, let's have Katie Brown join us and talk about how this becomes real, show us a demo, and walk us through a real example. Come on, Katie, join us on stage.
I want exploding fist bumps. I want exploding fist bumps.
There you go.
All right. Hey, folks, listen, recently as a SOC analyst, I've been losing a lot of sleep over some zero-day vulnerabilities that are targeting AI infrastructure. So we're going to take a look at our demo today and see what we can do if that happens in our environment with Splunk and Isovalent helping. So recently, a remote code execution vulnerability called Problema hit Olama, an open source LLM tool that our AI team was running in Docker. Thankfully, we've just set up Isovalent runtime security with Splunk. Setup is super easy, and with smart data management onboarding, the templates that come equipped into Isovalent, we can ensure that we are only getting the logs that we care about. The rest of those logs, who knows? We can send them to S3 because we may or may not need them later. So the reality is, folks, as these lovely gentlemen were mentioning, that we've got way too much data, and I'm not going to need it all for my investigations. So with Edge Processor and Cisco Data Fabric, we can intelligently extract and retain only the highest value data that we need.
Katie, let me interject.
Please.
That little intelligence that you're talking about, that agent, that's the Isovalent software that is at the very, very edges of the Cisco Data Fabric, right? So we can see all that process level detail, but we're putting logic in there that what it sends up, it sends the needle and not the whole haystack.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah, exactly, Tom. And as soon as that Isovalent data is streaming into Splunk, our Splunk dashboards would light up, so we would be able to detect this literally in real time.
And you're going to show us.
I'm going to show us. So obviously, we would want to launch an investigation and enterprise security workflow. So here we get to correlate all the other things that could be related to this incident. So we got a ton of findings that may or may not be related, but thankfully, we've got threat Talos information embedded in our findings. So Talos is telling us, hey, we know you've got a lot of findings. You probably want to look at these first because we've seen them in the wild, and it's really not good. So we can disposition events faster than ever. Here's where the value really hits. So it turns out those logs that we sent to S3, we need them. Oopsies. I gotta scope my incident. I need more information about the user. I need to look at different things. Those are logs that are not ingested into Splunk. But with federated search, we can run searches directly against those logs in S3. So any additional information that I need for my incident, I can search those logs directly without the additional cost.
Yes.
Exactly. And with SOAR, our responses can be super quick. So if I'm an analyst, by the time I'm hitting my automation page, my triage steps have already been taken for me. We stopped the network traffic. We isolated vulnerable hosts. I don't even have to do anything. So we can launch a war room within seconds. I can continue this investigation. But folks, as you saw with Splunk, we're getting lots of speed, full coverage, full control without the unnecessary cost.
Amazing.
And if I were into dad jokes, this is where I'd say we've solved this problema with ease.
That was not problematic at all. Yeah. Good job. Thank you so much.
Thank you guys
Thank
so
you,
much.
Thank you.
Katie.
Amazing. Well, amazing. Big hand to Katie. Thank you. Tom, your take on this.
Well, I think what's exciting about this is this is not an incremental effort, right? This is a new architecture and a new way of thinking about how we'll do not just security, but observability in this AI era, which is exciting and bold. And yes, we have tons of work to do here, but no guts, no glory. Let's get started, right?
All right. Thank you, Tom. Amazing.
Thanks, my friend.
Really appreciate it.
Thank you,
Take
everyone.
care. That's amazing. Wonderful seeds of this whole thing come together, from edge to federation to enforcement. And that's what you hear a lot more about as you go forward. So now this was a good example, but we've worked with many of you, the world's largest companies. And one of the most iconic companies that there is Ford. Ford is arguably the world's premier auto manufacturer. And so let's now see a quick video, roll the video, and let's see and talk about Ford. All right. So in the theme of keeping it real, I want to welcome Parsh Limaye from Ford to join me on stage. Come on, Parsh, let's talk about how Ford does it.
Morning.
All right.
Good to
welcome.
be here.
My
Thank
pleasure.
you.
Thank you so much. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Good to be here.
All right. And Parsh, you do a lot at Ford. Just tell us a little bit more about your role, what you do, et cetera, so the audience understands.
So appreciate it.
Of course.
Really great to be here this morning. My name is Parshuram Limaye, as Kamal introduced. Generally go by Parsh. I've been with Ford for about 2 years. I'm responsible at Ford for cloud, SRE, and developer experience, making sure that we continue to drive the future of mobility.
Got it. Now this is an iconic company, 122-year legacy is what it is of building automobiles.
Yeah.
So how do you, like now, more and more I think of Ford as a technology company. All these things in the car, they're all high tech, so how have you been evolving?
I mean, really, first of all, thank you for all the Ford owners and who drives them. Really appreciate your trust and patronage.
Yeah.
And for those who are considering, you would be amazed what's coming. So having said that, 122 years of legacy. An awesome, awesome legacy, right? We started with Model T, assembly line. That was technology-driven mobility. Now we are embedding AI across the verticals, across the businesses, whether it's in manufacturing plants, whether it's in the reliability domain, whether it's in areas of digital manufacturing, and so on and so forth. At the same time, we are being very true to our heritage, which is looking at the data at scale. You talked about ludicrous scale.
Right.
We are definitely dealing with it right now.
Yeah, of course.
So for us, the innovation continues as we honor our heritage.
Fantastic. I want a GT, but we'll talk about that after. Yeah. All right. Maybe everybody wants one. So look, you talked about ludicrous scale, the explosion of data and manufacturing. And so how did you come up? What kind of solution have you had for this sort of data issue, these data challenges?
Yeah, I mean, you talked about it, right?
Yeah.
The machines are producing so much data. For us, manufacturing-wise, as the vehicle is being built, it produces gobs of data, and then the processes, machines, people who are producing is also producing that data. So for us, the challenge is simple. How do you sift through that data, get to the proverbial needle in the haystack, really understand the correlation, and then how do we improve our customer experience, effectiveness, and then competitiveness for the business? That has been the challenge altogether.
Got it. And I assume that as we talk about this, again, data and this large, massive manufacturing data that's coming in, AI has to be a pretty important part of what you're doing. And you've been working with Cisco and Splunk, and just talk a little bit about how that partnership has helped you.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a long-standing partnership with both Cisco and Splunk. Good to see them as a company.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
And Splunk is our data analytics and observability platform for our manufacturing plant. We have manufacturing plant across the globe. And Cisco, for most part, is our network backbone. So you see a lot of data being pumped from the machines as well as from Cisco devices. And then together, we need to really have good real-time insights into manufacturing plants, because at any given point of time, if there is a stoppage, there is a problem, as you can understand. And so for us, in the AI area, it's all about looking at this data, really getting to, and I said before, right, the needle in the haystack, and really making sure our production continues to flow and our customers continue to have the great experience they have.
Got it. And how about some examples of how you are transforming manufacturing?
Sure. So, a lot of data comes from the plant floor, from telemetry, the vehicle data. As the vehicle is being built, it will tell you where it is in the build process, what errors it's seeing. So that's one part of the story. The other part is the machines which are observing that vehicle being built. It produces data. For the best example I can give you is if there is a welding defect, right? Is the weld being done through vision system, or if the panels are not sitting together properly, or if there is a discoloration, we are able to quickly figure that one out using AI. On top of that, the other thing we are looking at is predictively, through Splunk, really understand if there are going to be maintenance failures, right, on the systems, and then proactively schedule those maintenance so we don't have stoppages.
Wow, that's amazing. I think this notion of, I should have thought, but didn't realize that the vision is looking at the welding joints and color and paint. So AI is really reshaping how this work gets done. And talk a little bit more, as you talk about AI and you heard so many different discussions today, how is that sort of really driving changes in how you're working?
Sure. So as the data comes in, it becomes very, very important for us to really have smarter decisions, faster decisions, right? So it's not about managing the data anymore. It's really getting the insights from the data on what's going on, what issues we are seeing. And then we are trying to accelerate a lot of onboarding with our new commerce as well as our customers onto the platform. That's where AI has been very, very fruitful. And again, like you talked about, G2 talked about, I think, the time series data yesterday, and the model associated with that. Yeah. That is the direction we are going, to really understand and get the insights without training the model itself. So hoping that the models you're producing are trained enough for us to have the direct insights in.
Fantastic. So I would say that in terms of just looking ahead and the innovation that you saw today will hopefully help you really make this transformation go in further.
No, definitely, right? Because one thing we are also looking at is to move the intelligence closer to the edge. Right. Really have an understanding at the floor plans what the issues are, how do we process it, and we are definitely looking to standardize the data. Of course, there will be some local adaptability depending on the region they are in, and then using SPL2 for data pipeline enrichment. So we are definitely trying to continue to drive the innovation. Of course, you as a partner along the way.
Fantastic. Well, with that said, last thing for you, you've been doing this a long time. Any best practices, anything you want to share as a parting comment to the audience?
Definitely. Appreciate, again, having me here.
Of course.
One thing I will definitely say, treat your data as an asset, foundation for both efficiency and resiliency. Connect insights, right, end to end. Don't try to do them in silos. Really have a shared view across all the stakeholders, where it's in the platforms, where it's in the automation, whether it's in the manufacturing plant for you. Also, the biggest part of it is balance people, process, and technology. Because at the end of the day, if you have happy employees, you will have a happy company and a great customer base.
All right, Parsh, thank you so much for your insights. This partnership with Ford is amazing. And
once again, for having me.
Thank you.
Appreciate
and then that GT we'll talk about, right?
All right,
thank you.
Good.
Take care. Bye.
Bye.
Now, it was great to hear from Parsh and what Ford is looking at, what it's doing. But we also worked with Ford to build a demo and show you some of this in action. So I'm going to ask Lizzie Lee to join me on stage and do this demo that goes through what Parsh just talked about with the Ford data. So Lizzie, come on stage and join me. There you are. Hey, how are you doing?
Hey.
We'll do a little psh as well.
Yes, all right.
And Lizzie is going to be really brave, along with Chris, and they're going to do a live code demo. So this is, we'll let the demo gods decide. But good luck, and we'll be watching.
Thank
Take
you.
care. Bye. The clicker for that, for sure.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. Thanks, Kamal. So Ford is one of the world's most iconic automakers, and they're partnering with Splunk and Cisco to unify customer and machine data into a single pane of glass to deliver a seamless customer experience. In today's demo, we're going to show you how we're working with Ford now and where we're headed in the future. Meet Jenny. She's in the market for a new car to drive her kids to school, and the Ford Mach-E has caught her eye. After a test drive, she's really impressed. It checks every box for performance and comfort. So ready to make it hers, Jenny sits down with a sales rep and places her order. Congrats, Jenny. Now, Ford uses Splunk to monitor their production end-to-end so that they can proactively identify and remediate issues before they ever impact a customer experience. So let's take a look at this with a live demo. And here, Chris is going to help me drive, this demo while I talk through what's happening. Imagine I'm an IT analyst at Ford, I'm on call, and I see Jenny's new order come in our executive dashboard that's powered by Splunk. In this dashboard, I can get a single view across the entire manufacturing process for the Mach-E. It brings together data from over 65 manufacturing plants worldwide, 300 apps, and 500,000 connected vehicles. I can see everything from total units produced, operations, services, and even forward pass data like remote starts and next-gen vehicle scheduling. In this dashboard, it looks like we have an issue coming from our Cuautitlán plant. So let's investigate. In our Cuautitlán plant dashboard, I can get real-time visibility into data flowing in from my connected machines across the manufacturing lifecycle. I can also get visibility into network performance. It looks like there is an alert coming from one of our body assembly machines. Maybe it's a network issue? Let's find out. Inside Splunk's IT Service Intelligence, I can get a complete view across my apps, services, infrastructure, and business metrics for easy troubleshooting. Immediately, I can see that I have a widespread issue that's impacting all my manufacturing services. So let's click into the network layer to figure out if this is truly a network issue or not. With just a few clicks and without having to switch tabs, I'm able to drill directly into critical metrics like latency and network loss. I'm also able to deep link directly into Thousand Eyes for deeper troubleshooting across known and unknown networks. Here, I can see correlated network paths, and, well, it looks like the network is not the issue. So back in Service Analyzer, I can now see that the root cause is actually this database that is supporting the body assembly inspection robot. Digging in a little deeper, I can see that the database disk utilization is really high. And that's what's causing the slowness and the robot to halt. So I'll message the database team on WebEx so they can help resolve the issue. In the meantime, I'm going to create an alert using Splunk's AI Assistant for SPL so that I can more easily detect and prevent issues like this from happening again in the future. And within a few minutes, we have our alert created, the database team has resolved the issue, and now production is up and running again. And that's how Splunk and Cisco are working together to enable Ford to deliver seamless customer experiences. Now, back at home, Jenny gets the call that she's been waiting for. Her new Ford Mach-E is ready, and at the dealership, she beams as she sees her new car. She uses Forward Pass that's monitored by Splunk to unlock her vehicle, step inside, explore all the cutting-edge technology that's going to power her adventures going forward. And back to you, Kamal.
Right, here I am, yeah. Fantastic. Thank you so much. That's amazing.
Yes.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Well
Awesome.
done. Good job, guys. Well done. Good job. Yeah. That's fantastic. So amazing to see this whole thing come together with Ford. And really, you know, this is an amazing partnership for us. And we have many such partnerships with a multitude of customers. But seeing this in action really brings the power of what Splunk can do with the real customer scenario all together. So fantastic. Thank you, Parsh. Thank you, Lizzie. Thank you, Chris, as you walk through this. So now we went through this morning through, you know, a little bit of recap what happened. We looked at really getting more real into the specifics of what can be done with AI, with what Splunk already does traditionally, and then we'll talk a little bit more about how we empower you to really stay ahead in the AI era with this transformation that we are undergoing at Splunk. Now, what I want to do now is start to expand this out a little bit further. Splunk is a complete solution. We provide a leading data platform that helps you think about this machine data and how it becomes intelligence. And on top of it, of course, we have security and observability. And so what we'll do next is to have 3 sections. One, we'll have Mangesh come in and talk about the platform. Then we'll have a discussion on security and then observability with Mike Horn and Patrick Lin. So with that said, Mangesh Pipalkare, GM for our platform, please join me. Come on. All right. There you go.
I have mine.
There you go, don't clicker. Okay, take care.
Thanks, Kamal. Hello, everyone. I'm so excited to be at conf25. Now, since day one, Splunk has been helping all of you manage your machine data. And we have continuously been evolving the platform to meet your changing needs. Now, I've been at Splunk for 5 years and driving the transformation of the platform, first with our journey on the cloud, then as we got integrated within Cisco, and now with all the amazing opportunity we all see with AI. Now, you heard Jeetu as well as Kamal frame our go-forward path for an AI-centric world. What I'm going to do is focus on how to make it real. And I'm also going to be introducing some new product announcements, but I'll also help unpack some of what you heard before in the last 2 sessions. Now, it's becoming more and more difficult for all of you to keep a handle on all your machine data. And machine data drives more than 55% of the worldwide data growth. Now, AI-centric operations are making this even worse. They can also help solve the problem, but ultimately, these AI-centric solutions are going to need the right training models. And training models need data, because ultimately, AI is a data problem. And talking of data, the old ways of managing data, all of what you have been trying, are still not working. And we talked about this, right? We've tried centralizing the data into data lakes. But at ludicrous scale that Tom Gillis talked about, this breaks down. This just becomes cost prohibitive. And I'll say that, I'll be the first one to admit, even Splunk asked you in the past to ingest all your data into Splunk. We can help with the scale. The issue there is the value of the data is quite variable. So it's not such a simple solve to just ingest that. And we clearly need a different answer. You need to tier the data, and it needs to stay where it belongs. But we need to take the power of Splunk down to every single pawn bits of data residing everywhere. So that's the way forward. And I wanted to connect the dots to what Jeetu and Kamal framed when they laid out the forward vision for the Cisco data fabric. Now, I wanted to connect it to some of the product capabilities we have already been building over the last couple of years. If you remember, we started more than a year and a half ago with data management capabilities all the way from the edge to the cloud, and this allows us some of that bottoms-up data processing. We also released last year capabilities in federated search with data lakes like S3. That is what starts down the path of taking Splunk to wherever data is residing. Now, going ahead, there are 2 new components to the data fabric. The first one is the machine data lake. Now, this is the layer that you so badly need as the fuel for all your AI-centric models. And then the AI foundational models, you heard about the time series model that Jeetu talked about yesterday. That ultimately trains on this machine data and drives the kind of amazing AI-first experiences that you saw in the live demo yesterday on main stage. One thing I'll say is that for all of you who have been using Splunk platform, the Cisco data fabric is powered by the Splunk platform. So we are bringing together all these components, all the 4 components I talked about, in a whole integrated way. And you don't have to worry about buying a completely different product. So again, Cisco data fabric is not a completely new product. What you have accrues towards all the power of the Cisco data fabric. And remember, we'll continue to be an open platform. We are very committed, even as part of Cisco, to continue to be an open platform that we've always been. Now, let's talk about the benefits. And again, this is framed slightly differently, but I want to connect the dots from what you heard from Jeetu yesterday. The 3 big benefits. All of you firstly care about operational efficiency. And it's not just being efficient, right? Ultimately, you need to keep up with that ludicrous scale. And this is what data processing is all about. The second, if you want to unlock proprietary data, especially data that's particular to your context, you need a unified view of all that machine data. Now, this is what the data lake and foundational models is all about. And third, all this does not come to life without having a unified analytics engine. Because ultimately, AI, my t-shirt says that, AI can explain, but that's if it has SPL, right? We'll unpack that later in case you didn't get it. But, you've heard my perspective. Really, this is being echoed by companies like Regeneron. Now, this is a great customer study. Regeneron started down the path processing very high volumes of machine data. And they were struggling with the data volumes. Now, this is a leader in the drug discovery space, so think of labs and all kinds of environments. And Regeneron became an early design partner with our federated platform. And they were able to get an amazing 70% efficiency by dropping off and sifting their low-value data while getting the highest signals from the high-value data. Now, we are going to unpack this case study in my deep dive right after this session. You'll hear directly from Chris Wyndham and Keith Kiemig how they were able to unlock this kind of value. So stay tuned. And Regeneron's not the only one. The federated platform is now used by hundreds of customers, and they're getting great value. But what we need to do next is bring together the truly intelligent AI-first solutions. This is going to unlock the full potential of machine data for all of you. It's going to close those blind spots that you have with human operator-driven solutions. This is going to be the next wave of operational excellence, resilience reimagined, and AI-centric innovation. Let's look at that in the next video.
More data, more complexity, more pressure. It's time to take back control. The Splunk platform turns machine data into AI-ready actionable insights. Search, correlate, and analyze wherever data lives. Instantly reduce noise at the source. And unleash AI to optimize data pipelines, prevent downtime, and secure the unexpected, all at scale. Take your data strategy to the next level. This is the platform for the agentic era.
All right, so that went by fast, but we'll be unpacking a lot of these innovations in the deep dive following this session. But remember this, today, as well as the next 6 months, all these announcements that we are rolling out, we are going to be bringing incredible value to all of you to turn your data into intelligence. That's the one thing I want you to take away. Now, we are doing this by not only using AI in the platform, but ultimately allowing you to use your machine data for your AI solutions. And I wanted to kind of show you some examples of that. So back to the 3 value pillars, I'm going to go through one by one and choose, in the interest of time, just choose 1 or 2 announcements that make it real, that show you how you can get this value. So starting with that operational efficiency and scale, remember we said it all starts with the bottoms-up data processing. This is why processing data at the edge is so critical. And this is why I'm so super excited now that we have Edge Processor finally on Splunk 10 on on-prem environments. Thank you. I know all of you who operate in standalone on-prem environments have been asking, why can't I filter, mask, and route my data just like you can on the cloud? Well, now you can. It's the same consistent experience on cloud and on-prem. And now you have a single console to look at the entire end-to-end data pipelines, right from the forwarding agents to where it lands up at the right destination based on your use case. This also gives you data governance at a very granular level. So we have literally the ability to, based on the user, select down to the fields, and if they're sensitive fields of data, filter that out. Amazingly powerful. Net, what you get is maximize, reuse, and minimize the duplication of your data. This is the secret to operational efficiency. Now, data management is just the start, right? That's not the means to the end. The means to the end is unlocking the power for AI. And so unlocking the power of machine data, you heard some of that before, but I'm going to call out 2 product capabilities, one of which you heard from G2 and Kamal before. One is new. So just stay tuned. The first one is the machine data lake. Now, we'll have that in alpha in Feb of 26. And this helps you enrich, connect, as well as activate all your machine data, whether it's in Splunk or whether it's in other systems. And this is the fuel, ultimately, that brings that machine GPT vision to life. But you need more than just the data. To bring the vision to life, you actually need the AI models that train on the data. You need actually a full solution kit, right? And this is why I'm actually super excited to announce we have that kit. We are excited to announce Splunk AI Toolkit with large language model support, as well as anomaly detection built in, and all these are GA today. Now, let's unpack that really quickly. Some of you might be wondering, what is AI Toolkit? We knew machine learning toolkit. Well, we first of all are evolving machine learning toolkit. So you get all the goodness of machine learning toolkit, but the reason we have expanded the scope is that AI Toolkit now has all the inbuilt support with large language models. And here's the real kicker. We are now offering Splunk-hosted large language models. So you don't have to worry about spinning up the right infrastructure. Let Splunk just take care of it. It's a self-contained solution. Now, we are going to start with some of the foundational models that we already have. The Cisco foundational AI model, 2 versions of the Llama 3.1 model. So this is going to give you a great choice between like the footprint of infrastructure and your use cases. And then over time, we'll work in the time series foundational model, other foundational models as we build them. Now, why is this important? With AI Toolkit and using the MCP server interface, which, by the way, is GA already, you can now start creating the kind of agentic experiences that you all saw yesterday in the live demo. Kamal said, sometimes you want to build checkout failure types solutions. Well, you might be a very different customer, and you could be a bank. You could be a retailer. You could be a media company. Now you can actually take advantage of your environment and bring your own machine GPT to life. That's why it's super important. Is that cool? Awesome. So the third value pillar, we talked about this. Nothing really comes to life without ultimately having a deep analytics engine that Splunk's always been good at. And we have been on the federation path to take Splunk to more and more places where your data lives. And this is why I'm so excited to announce our 2nd generation federated analytics solution. Now, this is going to use the Spark engine, and this is going to be alpha, actually in October with just a SPL2 interface with S3, right? We didn't mention that before because S3 already exists, but we are enhancing that. But the real exciting part of the roadmap happens in early 26. We are going to be expanding this to Azure and Snowflake, as you heard from G2 yesterday. And one more exciting direction is we are now extending that to Cisco's secure analytics and logging. So this is an internal data lake for firewall logs. Like firewall logs are typically noisy, and now federation solves really the problem of looking across noisy firewall logs. So very exciting, and we will have full support for Apache, Iceberg, and Delta Lake, and other open formats. And talking of open formats, one great example that allows us to do is integrate with Snowflake. So you heard this announcement yesterday. We will be alpha in February of 26. And what this does is gives great business context for many of the operational use cases. Now, to unpack that a little more, I would love to have Carl Perry, Head of Analytics at Snowflake, join us on the stage. Please invite Carl. Hey, how are you, Carl?
I'm doing great. How are you doing?
I'm doing fine, too. It's a fantastic venue, and thank you so much for joining us on stage.
Oh, thanks for having us here. It's awesome to see all these Splunkers.
Yeah, no, it's awesome. Now, Carl, I'm sure you heard more than a couple of times, there's such a tidal wave of AI going on, and customers are rethinking operations all the way through, business, machine data. What do you hear from customers? What's your perspective on how we can help them?
Yeah, I mean, consistently, we talk to customers, and what they tell us every single day is they want to make sure that they can actually have insights across all their data, not just the data that's stored directly on Snowflake. It's really about connecting all that data and breaking down silos. Snowflake's really well known for storing a bunch of your business data, things like revenue, customers, IT, a bunch of other information to run your business. But with the integration with Splunk, customers are now able to converge that data into a single set of data that are able to query across and get entirely new insights in real time using the integration with Splunk and Snowflake.
Yes, that is what we have heard as well. You have so many strengths in business data. Splunk has always been about machine data, and customers don't want us duplicating all that data. So this is the impetus for us working together. Lots of great opportunities.
Yeah.
Talk to us a little bit about formats, because how do we make our different data types work with each other?
Yeah, I think that we have a certain fit in the enterprise with storing business data. And as we look at this, what customers have had to do to intersect that with data that's stored in systems like Splunk is they've had to make multiple copies of that data. And frankly, that leads to complexity. And complexity leads to increased costs, leads to confusion, leads to errors, which nobody wants with their data in making decisions in their business. And so what we've been able to do with Splunk is leveraging open formats like Apache Iceberg. You're able to now keep data where it is, and using the federated search capabilities that are inside Splunk, access that data directly from Snowflake, pull it into Splunk, the subset of data that matters, and start to drive totally new business insights from that shared data set.
That's our shared vision too. And talking of Iceberg and other open formats, this was one of the big reasons we invested in Spark. Spark as an engine has all the rich ecosystem already and allows us to work together. One thing we should test with customers, we have a lot of customers here. I'm sure there are a lot of Snowflake customers here as well. So what are some of the top-of-mind use cases that we can start testing with the customers?
So I think there's a couple of them. First, though, let's talk about Iceberg really quickly, because I wanted to just kind of dig in there a little deeper. One of the key value props that Iceberg provides to all customers, most importantly, is that they're able to take advantage of whatever platform they want to that meets their specific needs. No longer is data locked in a platform, and you're not able to get the benefits of, say, some other platform that actually provides better price, performance, or functionality. And so an open standard, a truly open standard like Iceberg, enables customers to get that flexibility. And in our mind, it really is very customer forward and pro-customer. So they get to make the choice. And this makes us build better products for our customers. So the combination of Apache Iceberg and Apache Polaris enable us to build integrations that are super deep and really make it extremely simple and powerful for our joint customers to go ahead and take advantage of that.
Yeah, customers should love this, for sure.
Yeah, and then on to the question that you said a second ago around what are the use cases that we see. I mean, you mentioned actually a couple of industries, retail, banking, and kind of media. Those are great examples to talk about. You think about a retail company that, say, has a physical footprint, and they're selling sales in the store, and they have a POS outage, and they have their logs that show what's happening in real time. And they also have a bunch of information around revenue impact, right? They see what their revenue is supposed to be. They see that revenue is starting to drop. They can start to connect these two together and see that it's associated with, well, there's an outage in these stores due to our POSs. So they can go and address that really quickly by melding this data together. That's kind of one thing. You think about banks, the other one you mentioned. They want to focus on identifying fraudulent activities. And so the way they go about doing that, leveraging the integration, is look at their server logs, see where IP addresses are making calls, look at actual customer transaction and purchase history, and meld those two together to find out where the anomalies are in real time. Super powerful, not able to do in the past in a really easy, simple way. And then finally, we think about media companies that have, say, a streaming service, and they want to understand what the quality of service is for all of their customers. And so they start to identify that they're seeing higher churn rates in a given segment, and they start to intersect that with the Splunk information that they have, and they can see that there's something specifically wrong in this geo, with this segment of customers, or whatever. And it's this intersection, again, of the Splunk and Snowflake that truly makes that possible. And then the last thing I'll say, we've talked a lot about AI here. I actually don't know what AI is going to enable for this intersection of the data. But what I do know is it's going to enable an entirely new set of insights that were not possible in the past. And the great thing with those insights is you'll be able to make better business decisions and provide better outcomes for your customers. And so that's why I'm incredibly excited with the integration between Splunk and Snowflake.
Yeah, well said, Carl. AI is going to surprise us all.
Yeah.
So it's not just these use cases, but even the unknown use cases that's going to be very, very powerful. Thanks so much, Carl. This was really a pleasure. Glad you could join us on stage.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. A big hand again for Carl Perry. All right, what you just saw in the last 15 minutes is just the beginning of the new Splunk platform. And we have a lot more coming. I'll unpack more announcements, and you'll see some first demos again in the next deep dive. But for now, I want to take you back to a slide that you saw from Kamal. He made the point that the Splunk platform is so powerful because we not only have a data platform that connects across all the data and gives you all the insights, but it actually is the foundation for very, very specific domain-centric solutions like security and observability. They leverage the same foundation to light up those use cases. And to tell us more about observability-centric innovations, I would now like to hand it over to our SVP and GM of Observability, Patrick Lin. Come on up, Patrick.
All right. How's everyone doing this morning? All right, good. So thank you, Mangesh. That was some pretty great stuff, right? So this is my 5th or 6th, have a hard time counting, time at Conf. Right? And what I love about showing up here is the ability to hear from you firsthand what's working, what's not, and what you wish you had from Splunk. And what I continue to hear, even in conversations yesterday, is that most of you are still not quite satisfied with where you are. It's not that you don't have the tools, right? In fact, you might still have a couple too many from more vendors than you want, right? And the telemetry that's collected in it for this app or that system, this layer, it's still sometimes trapped in a data silo somewhere. And using that data when something goes wrong, it's too much work from too many people for too long. And on top of that, when you're trying to actually prioritize which of these alerts to follow or which of these symptoms to look into, it's all guesswork. Now, I also hear from you that maybe there's some hope here, right? AI can probably help us with this, but in the observability domain, AI cuts both ways. On one hand, it's adding to the complexity of your environment, right? AI models, they introduce unpredictable behavior. They can break existing practices for monitoring software applications. And the code that AI assistants are generating, yeah, it's going to help your engineers, right? They're going to be more productive. But it's also a lot more code that no one really quite knows. And so it might just be, a little bit harder to fix. Now, on the other hand, AI is also creating new opportunities for how you ensure digital resilience. So done right, it can be an extra pair of hands, or actually an extra pair of brains maybe, right? That help you react faster and more accurately, of course, right? But also, it can help you get into the right proactive stance with less manual work. And it can help you draw inferences from all that telemetry that's being collected from a variety of different sources. Something that's going to be actually impossible to do without a lot of subject matter experts at your disposal. And so with all these changes looming and cats moving around, it's clear that observability has to evolve and will evolve in 3 critical ways, right? First and foremost, the opportunity to use AI to work smarter and faster. With AI agents as our teammates, they can help us instrument, they can help us detect and troubleshoot, and even remediate issues that can be stopped in their tracks before they're spiraling out of control and before users ever notice. Now, secondly, AI also does need oversight, as G2 said yesterday, for us to be able to trust it, right? And observability has to span the full stack, from the GPUs to the foundational models, the agents, the conversations themselves. And to provide that oversight, we're going to need new telemetry, things like the quality of the responses, the safety, the cost, right? And all of that is going to be on top of the golden signals that we already have. And so there's a new bar that's going to get set for observability here. And if you want all these benefits, you have to take advantage of the platform. You have to pull together all of your logs and metrics and traces across all of your environments. And you have to infuse that with a user and business context that lets you prioritize what matters. And put together, these 3 things, they represent a massive change to observability practices. It's a new way of thinking about it all together. And how you think about Splunk has to evolve. It's a new era for observability, and it's agentic. Now, agentic observability is about how you achieve the resilience that you need in an AI-native world. And it's a proactive approach that gets you out of firefighting and into the business of fire prevention. So let's take a look at what that might turn into in the future.
The future of observability is now, and it's agentic. Splunk takes observability beyond dashboards into action. AI handles the data setup, so you're ready to see everything. It predicts issues before they happen, troubleshoots on its own, and remediates before anyone even notices a blip. No more noise. No more chasing unknown unknowns. Just answers, action, and uptime. Goodbye grind. Hello build time. This is observability evolved. This is Splunk Observability for the agentic era. Splunk Observability. Get ready to own your uptime.
All right, pretty cool, right? Now, we are going to unpack that in the keynote deep dives later on, so make sure you don't miss that. But first, let's spend a few minutes talking about some of the key capabilities we're going to deliver to bring agentic observability to life. Now, many of you have had our AI assistant in your hands for almost a year now, right? And I'm thrilled to announce the next generation of AI capabilities. We are now adding agents that act, focusing on where you spend the most time today, the detection, the troubleshooting, and the remediation. And we're extending this AI across the full incident lifecycle. And it's not just a point feature limited to one product in our portfolio. This is a thematic approach, something that you're going to see show up across the portfolio and applicable for any environment. And of course, I'm sure many of you are saying, hey, okay, that sounds pretty nice, but will it really help me when things go wrong? And the answer I'm going to tell you is yes. The AI troubleshooting agent in Observability Cloud pulls metrics, logs, and traces across the stack to pinpoint root causes automatically. And in AppDynamics, the AI troubleshooting agent brings that same power directly into existing workflows, tying the findings to health rule violations and doing anomaly detection so that investigations are faster and decisions about how to act can be clearer. And now, I know we're not the only ones building AI agents out there, right? I'm sure many of you are doing something similar. There's going to be a lot of them, and so you have to ask yourself, how do we keep track of them? How do you know what they're doing, and how do you know that they're doing what they're supposed to? And given that need, I'm delighted to announce AI Agent Monitoring, which builds on top of what we already announced back in June for AI Infrastructure Monitoring. Now, AI Agent Monitoring helps you track your AI-enabled apps and agents end to end. It helps you evaluate how your foundational models are performing. And it helps to identify and resolve issues, not just around latency or errors, SLOs, right, but also around token utilization to help catch hallucinations and drift in real user interactions. And because you can't afford that kind of risk in production, our solution also integrates directly with Cisco AI Defense. And that helps us connect AI security findings about prompt injection or data leakage, harmful content, directly to the real-time impact that they would have on services and infrastructure, so that your engineering teams have the full picture when they respond to issues. Now, let's be real. You can't do this without a strong platform and all the data that flows through it. One that lets you see end-to-end workflows, irrespective of how the underlying services are built or powered. And this, by the way, is actually the most common question I've been getting asked here at Conf, which is, when are you, Splunk, going to give us the ability to look at any application from one console, irrespective of whether it's end-tier or microservices-based, irrespective of whether it is running partially on the cloud or partially on-prem, a blend of all of the above, right? And so I'm proud to say that Splunk Observability Cloud now brings best-in-class support for end-tier and microservices in one solution, okay? One solution. Now, building on the strengths of AppDynamics with business transactions, so that you can monitor the processes that your business actually runs on, the checkout, account creation, any end-to-end workflow, really, right? And it's going to have call graphs so that you can point straight to slow methods or functions. It's going to give you service map grouping that allows your teams to understand the world the way they work, including how it depends on the underlying infrastructure, so they can immediately know where a problem lives, anywhere from the code to the cluster. And all of this provides a solid foundation for the engineering and ops folks to more deeply understand what they interact with day to day. But we also know that not every problem is on them, right? Not every problem is a bug or a networking device that's had a problem or a brownout in the cloud or what have you, right? And that's why I'm super excited to announce Digital Experience Analytics, or DEA for short. Now, with the business journey insights that you get from DEA, you can visualize the end-to-end path and see where customers drop off, pinpoint what actually drives engagement and conversion. And when something feels off, you've got session replay, which lets you watch the real user sessions to know exactly where the friction is occurring and resolve usability issues quickly. And this ensures that you only bring in the engineers and the SREs when you really need to. Now, a great example of a customer who's able to take advantage of this unified observability approach is T-Mobile. And we're working with them to unify the data and visibility across App Dynamics, Splunk Observability Cloud, Thousand Eyes, the Splunk platform, all using OpenTelemetry. And I want to invite you to come learn more about this, again, when we unpack things more deeply in the Observability Keynote deep dive at 2:30 today in this very room. Now, what we've talked about this morning is just barely scratching the surface. And we've got so much more to discuss about how you can join us on this journey to agentic observability and why Splunk and Cisco is your ideal partner for this new era. Okay? All right. And with that, I'd like to turn it over to Mike Horn, our SVP and GM for security.
Hello. It is great to be here at Conf, and one of my favorite parts as the GM of security products is talking to customers. And this week, I've heard a lot of the familiar problems, things like too many alerts and not enough skilled workers. I've heard about the fact that there's a lot of manual processes that people need to do. And so those were all things that were relatively familiar. And then I'm hearing about a new class of problems, which is, hey, AI is great. We've heard a lot about how AI is going to help us, but it also comes with some downsides. We know that attackers are using AI to create more sophisticated attacks. They're creating higher volume attacks. And so when we think about what's happening in the security operations center for security operations teams and for the security operations tools that they use, we know that things need to evolve. And when I think about what that evolution looks like, there's really three key themes. The first is you need a unified set of capabilities. The tools that you use need to work together. Right? You don't want to switch screens as you're going from threat detections into investigations and then moving on into a response. You want to be able to do that from one single workflow. Then, we need to be able to take that seamless integration and turn that into amplified and powered by AI. So we'll talk about AI assistance and how AI agents can really change things for us. And then the third piece is on the detection side. So when we think about expanding out and this expanding attack surface, being able to keep up with the threats that you're facing, these different threat vectors are all things that we need to focus on. So let's go jump into the simplified security analyst experience. And this all started with Enterprise Security 8. So if you're familiar with what we announced at the last .conf, we talked about how Enterprise Security 8 was bringing together your SIEM and your SOAR. And that's a reality that you can use today. And we have Enterprise Security 8.1 out, and there's a ton of customers that are using this. But today, I'm excited to announce that we're introducing Enterprise Security 8.2. So that is available today. It went up last night. And Enterprise Security 8.2 is a great continuation of this journey that we've been on. So if you think about these simplified analyst workflows and being able to do accelerated triaging, so how do I quickly understand whether something's a true positive, a false positive? We've accelerated the abilities to easily do that. We've improved our finding-based detection, so being able to create complicated, more sophisticated advanced detections where you can correlate different events and say, hey, if I saw this and I saw that, then I want to generate an alert that needs to be investigated, and all sorts of other things, including that rich SOAR integration. Now, in the past, you only had one choice for enterprise security. You could buy the enterprise security product, and that was kind of your only choice. Today, with Enterprise Security 8.2, I'm excited to announce that we now have 2 versions of enterprise security. So the first version is Essentials. That is the enterprise security that you know and love and the thing that you've been using already, right? So if you're, think of that as just a name change. So Enterprise Security becomes Enterprise Security Essentials. And then with this 8.2 release, we've added a new Premier Edition, which brings in a few additional capabilities. So the first thing that it brings in is a SOAR license. So if you're early in your journey and you're just getting started with automation, this is a great way to get a SOAR license as part of your enterprise security product. And it brings in a new UEBA capability that is built directly into enterprise security. So the interface is directly into enterprise security. The data that you're using for this, running your machine learning, is all in enterprise security. So this is really exciting in terms of a new capability around insider threats. If you come to the session later today, 1 o'clock here, we're going to show a demo of how all these pieces come together, how you can seamlessly investigate an insider threat with the same tools that you use for everything else. So we're super excited about what this brings into the mix. Now, the second piece I said that was really important as we go on this evolution is really around how do we take advantage of these AI capabilities. So you've heard a lot today about how AI is going to really change things. And I think we're seeing that show up in the real world every day. And we believe that what is needed is a mix of AI assistants and AI agents. And so we're working towards helping you be able to get the flexibility and the power that you need, whether that's augmenting somebody to help make them make a better decision and make that decision faster, or that's an agent that's working on their behalf. So to show you a little bit about what we're working on in the AI era, let's roll the video.
Tons of alerts, too many tools, relentless pressure, manual tasks. It's a lot. So how about a little help? Say hello to the Agentic SOC, powered by Splunk Enterprise Security. AI-powered triage agents investigate for you. Automatically enriched alerts give you deep context and help you prioritize the threats that matter most. While AI-assisted playbooks help you automate response and stop threats at the speed of AI. Transform your analyst experience. Radically simplify TDIR. This is your SOC for the agentic era.
So if you were listening closely, one of the things that you would have heard is that we are announcing a new triage agent. So this is going to be an agent that will act on your behalf, that will work on doing investigations, gathering data, applying reasoning to that just like you would. It can be informed by your security playbooks. So if you already have a set of procedures, here's how I investigate a credential phishing threat. This triage agent, which will be available early next year, will help you go through those activities automatically. It'll show you the receipts for all the work that's been done. It's going to tell you, hey, I think this is a true positive. I think this is a false positive. It's going to give you a disposition on, a confidence on that disposition. So it's going to tell you, I'm high, medium, low confidence. So you know that the things that you want to look at, hey, it's a true positive with high confidence. Well, that's something I really need to go look at right now. And so you'll be able to filter views and be able to do that. Now, how would you guys feel about having an agent that goes and does all that base work on your behalf? Good? Okay, the third pillar I mentioned is really around how do you keep up with this evolving attack landscape. So we know that threat vectors are constantly emerging, whether that's 0 days or the attack surface is expanding. With all this AI opportunity also comes AI challenges. For those of you that are supporting large language model and generative AI solutions in your environments, you know that now you have to protect that surface. Like, got to worry about things like prompt injection and all these different things. So how does Splunk help you solve that problem? Well, I'm excited to announce that we have a brand new detection studio that's available as an alpha release today. So you can take advantage of this new detection studio. And this is powered by the acquisition that we did earlier this year of a company called SnapAttack. And so what this does is it brings you entire detection management lifecycle capabilities directly integrated into enterprise security. So you're going to be able to find and discover detections more easily. You're going to be able to look at more facets for those detections. Let's say you're interested in knowing what's my coverage protection against a particular threat actor. I'm in an industry vertical. I'm located in a specific geo region. What are the threats that I should care about? It's going to recommend detections that you might be missing based on those things that you identified that you care about. It's going to tell you about data sources you might want to consider adding into your environment so that you can get the best protection against the things that you said you cared about. So this is going to be a really game-changing experience. And if you think about the integrations with things like content as code, we're really driving forward and working closely with customers on this. It's a great opportunity. You can see it on the show floor. There's a demo of this. I would love to get your feedback and input. As I said, this is available as alpha as of now. So super excited. That sounds like a lot of the people that have been wrestling with detections for a while. So it's maybe overdue. We're excited to bring this to you. So later today at 1 o'clock, you'll hear myself, and I've got Patty Voigt from Webster Bank joining me to talk about how they're taking these technologies, things like that Enterprise Security 8 with this integrated experience between SIEM and SOAR and all the different capabilities that we're bringing there. So please join us at 1 o'clock for that, and we'll look forward to seeing you there. And so if you think about kind of where we are and closing it up, as I mentioned, the challenges that you face are consistent and growing, right? So we know that it's a hard job. We think that in order to do that, you need to have your tools evolve to be able to help you with a seamless integrated experience so you're not having to switch between different tools to solve those problems, that you have a powered by AI, whether that's assistants or agents to help you do that, and then finally, helping you keep up with the latest threats. So, a lot more to come on the security side. Please join us, as I said, at 1 o'clock here for the Security Keynote Deep Dive. And with that, I would love to hand it back to Kamal Hathi, who's going to close us out. Come on up, Kamal.
All right, thanks, Mike. That was amazing. This brings us to the conclusion, wrapping up on the day 2 product keynote. I talked a lot about this notion of being a new Splunk. And, all these things we talked about, these different announcements, different innovations, this list just goes on and on and on. And I'm so proud of this team for moving fast, moving rapidly, moving with energy to start helping you, get the leadership to be able to go and make AI practical, really practical in the enterprise. I thank you for all your feedback. I thank you for all your participation that helps us make a better product. And it's our commitment to make sure that you get what you need to be leaders in the AI era. We went through a lot of things already. And going forward, we touched a bit on agentic observability. We touched a bit on the agentic SOC. We touched a bit on the platform. But now we have deep dives that will go really into the depth and more details on each of these things with real demos that we can see how things are working, customer stories. All these things will come together, and that's coming up next. Now, for the rest of the show, this is your week. This is your week. You're here. Please take advantage. As I said before, just go geek out. There are all these things, different deep dives, different sessions. The show floor, make sure you get a chance to really try hands-on. Our partners are there. They've got amazing things you can look at and play with. And then the entire team, the entire product team's here. We are here to answer questions. Your peers are here to answer questions who sometimes know more than we do. So please, please take the time to talk to the experts who can help you get the most out of your investments in Splunk and in Cisco. With that said, well, I personally will see you again in Denver, Conf 2026, September 14th. See you then. Thank you so much. Have a great time. Bye-bye.